Hi, everybody. Sorry about the Zoom snafu. I don't know what happened. I've never had that happen before. Maybe a couple other people trying to log in. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. I can, Bernadette. Yeah.
Good.
Oh, hi, Nancy.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
That's good. I hope that Florida storm passed you by without trouble.
Well, I'm in Texas. We didn't
Oh,
get it.
you're in Texas. I was thinking you're in Florida. Okay. Well,
No, but we did have a little tropical storm from the other side of us,
yeah.
Corpus Christi,
Okay.
but it wasn't bad. I mean, we got an inch and a half of rain. It's the first rain we've had in 40 days.
Oh, wow. Nice.
100-degree temperatures.
Yeah.
Oh, it must be really humid.
Oh, yeah. That's humid. Yeah.
It's always humid at the bay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So there's several more people signed up, and I'm hoping that they got the message that there's a new Zoom link.
Oh, they should. Yeah.
Yeah, because people had apparently some people could open it but I couldn't, and other
Yeah.
people said they couldn't, so made a new
I
link.
was able to open it. I was able to open it on Chrome, but not Safari. Very strange.
Huh.
Hmm.
I was using Chrome and I couldn't open it.
Oh, how strange.
Yeah, I couldn't either until she sent a new one.
Okay.
I've had anything like that happen before, but there's always got to be something, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, Haley, there's a name Haley here. Can you turn your camera on? Hi. Nice to meet you. Where are you from?
Hi, I'm from Michigan. I'm like here. So you're talking about humidity. It's like 99% here right now.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's cold, so it's weird. It's
Oh wow.
Did you say Amsterdam?
No,
Michigan.
Michigan, yeah.
Yes, probably cold in Amsterdam too. Okay, well, I guess we'll just get started. I don't know if the other people are going to be able to join us or not. But there were a couple other people who had logged in on the other link. And I'm hoping they get the email to switch over to this one, but I don't know. Maybe it's just the way it's meant to be. So anyway, most of us know each other. Marilyn is new to our group.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
You want to just tell us where you're from and why you're here?
Yes, I'm from Canada, near Ottawa, our national capital. I'm here because I love fairy energy. It lights me up. I love working with the fairies. It's my first live event with you, Bernadette, but I attended some recorded sessions. So I'm looking forward to today's journey. Yeah.
Wonderful. You, Haley, do you want to tell us a little more about why you've come?
Yeah, I actually found you by Googling fairy Reiki. So kind of random this week. And then I signed up for your like email list or whatever it was. And then this link came in and I thought this would be a good way to learn more about you and your programs and what you do. And I also connect a lot with fairy energy. So I think
It. Okay. Caroline, do you want to let everybody know where you're
Oh,
from and what?
yeah, I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and anything about Arthurian, I didn't even want to say legend because I know that these people really lived and existed and they're still with us. And the Grail is an astounding area for study, and the symbolism of it is so powerful, and it's still totally relevant for our spiritual path. Yeah. So yeah. Mhm.
How about you, Nancy?
Um, yeah, I've had a few classes with you in the last few years. Love them. Love the fairies. Love the Arthurian legends or whatever they are, truths. Um, and I'm looking forward to this today.
Hey. So I've been fascinated by the Arthurian lore for all my life, pretty much. It's like it really speaks to me, and I didn't really know why until I started making the fairy connections, and I realized that a lot of what's going on in there is the fairies initiating humans into the fairy mysteries. A lot of the the ugly hags that appear to the knights and transform into beautiful women are fairies coming to test them. There's Nimoy and Merlin. She comes to they say she's coming as his apprentice, but I think she's probably teaching him as much as he teaches her. But they kind of have this alliance that helps to bring the fairy lore into the Arthurian legends. And then of course Morgan Le Fay and the Lady of the Lake are coming from Avalon to bring the fairy wisdom to the Knights of the Round Table and all the people of Camelot. So there's just fairy magic woven into all the stories. And the Grail, I've been thinking about it a lot since I started planning this workshop. The fairies just kept telling me to do a Grail Quest workshop, and I've come to realize that it's actually one of the 4 sacred hallows of the fairy realm. And it's, even though in modern times it's been equated with the chalice of that Jesus used at the Last Supper, and there's a whole tradition built on that, about Joseph of Arimathea coming to England after Jesus was crucified and bringing the chalice and burying it, or I guess not burying it, but putting in chalice well, which is why it's called chalice well. And so there's this whole Christian tradition that's kind of been overlaid on top of the Grail tradition, which goes back to all these ancient legends about cauldrons. There's Caradwin's cauldron, the Dagda's cauldron, and the cauldron of plenty that the Tuatha De Danann brought to Ireland when they came. And they are the fairy people of Ireland. They are also recognized as the gods and goddesses, like Bridget and Danu and the Dagda. Most of the early Irish gods and goddesses are from the Tuatha De Danann. And so they brought this cauldron with them that would supply whatever anyone wanted. And then, oh, you know what? There's one person who didn't get the Zoom link. I'm sorry. Sorry to forget. I just have to make sure he gets the link because his pending thing didn't go through. So I'm sorry. I'm just gonna have to go and send that to him manually. You can talk among yourselves. So
Is it starting to cool off a bit? You're saying, Haley, is it getting colder in Michigan?
Yeah, it's been like 80s, 90s every day, and then just the last day or two, it's dropped to like 50s and 60s. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Wow.
a big jump, but the humidity is still here. But I'm like right on the lake. If I go down to the end of my road, I can look down and see Lake Huron. So that's why there's also so much humidity, even when it's cold. So
Yes, of course. Of course. Yeah, it just now, it's going to 87 at Santa Fe today, but starting Monday, it'll be in the 70s, high mid 70s, and that is a great break from the heat.
yeah, I bet. What have you guys been up at? Like the highest?
Yeah, well, low 100s, 101, that kind of thing. But that's not bad. When I lived in the central coast of California, it would go up to 117 and stay
Oh,
there for 3 or 4 days. I thought, the first summer I was there, I thought 104, 105 was intense. And then the next summer it goes up to 117. And I'm like, oh, good gravy. Just move fast out of the building and into another building or your car or whatever, and get some air conditioning.
no, I
Very
couldn't
intense.
handle it. You're braver than me. I would melt. So
Oh, I didn't know it got that hot. A friend in LA said, "Oh, it'll get hotter on Central Coast, this is near San Luis Obispo, than in LA." And I said, "Oh no, LA is further south. LA will get hotter, but no." It was always hotter where I was living. Oh my golly, Polly. So I can't complain. If Santa Fe goes to 99 or 100, some days in summer, I've seen plenty worse.
All right. Sorry, I had to just make sure that person got his link. Okay, so let's get back into the Grail. So does anybody have any ideas about what you feel the Grail is, or what does it mean to you?
No, I mean, I'll jump in because I have a question. I thought for many years it was an actual physical grail, and then over time I thought maybe it's symbolic. And friends of mine who are way into symbolism said, well, what it is, that cup is the shape of a womb, and it's a symbol of the divine feminine. And I thought that's interesting. So now that's how I view it. Now I don't know how that mixes in with Arthurian lore or what you think of that, but I wanted to ask you about it, Bernadette.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a connection there. Because the cauldron is the kind of the symbol of the womb from which everything comes, and they call it the cauldron of plenty because it provides all the food and drink anyone could want, and it also can heal the dead and bring them back to life. So it's got that life regenerating energy of the womb. So it's kind of symbolic of the womb of the goddess.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful.
Anybody else have anything to add?
Well, when I was in Glastonbury, I went to the Chalice Well, and of course they say that Joseph of Amaranth, I can't pronounce that, Amaranth,
Arimathea?
yeah, whatever, who is possibly the great uncle of Jesus, brought the chalice and buried it in the well.
Right.
Who knows if that's really true?
Yeah. Well, I think what happened was that, there's this ancient tradition of the cauldron, which the Grail was built on, and then when the Christian overlay came, it was such a similar symbol to the chalice of the Last Supper that, they kind of melded, kind of kind of became synonymous in a way. But it's interesting if you read the Arthurian legends as time goes on, like the earlier legends kind of had more of the early pagan symbolism, and the later ones have more and more Christian overtones. So there's this kind of development, and also as they go along, the female figures become more and more demonized. Like Morgan Le Fay starts out as this healer, and she, eventually becomes like this evil person who brings Arthur down, But her early personality was totally different. And Guinevere's, Arthur's wife, but then in the later versions, she has an affair with Lancelot, and kind of contributes to the ruination of the kingdom. But she really originally wasn't like that. She originally was a fairy woman who incarnated in the human world to bring that fairy energies to Camelot. So, but the Christians wanted to demonize the fairies because people weren't focusing on, giving them their money mostly, their power. They didn't want people focusing on fairies and learning that kind of stuff. So anyway, does anybody have any questions or comments about the whole Grail mystery, how it fits into the Arthurian legend, Percival and all that? Before we take a journey?
I'll just try for myself to keep an open mind. I've heard about all these different, I don't know if I can say versions or definitions of the Grail, and I'll just see what comes up in the journey and let go my imagination.
Yeah, and it's interesting, even in the lore, it shows up in different ways. It shows up as a serving dish, it sort of shows up as a stone, it shows up as a cup. So, it's not like a solid form, that it's more of an energy that can show up in different ways. So we'll find out how it shows up for us. So let's all get comfortable. Notice your breath moving in and out. And I'm feeling a little rattled from all the Zoom issues, so I'm going to take a moment to ground myself. Run a grounding cord from the base of your spine all the way down to the core of earth. Connect in with that life-giving energy at the core of earth. Can everybody mute themselves? And when you connect with that energy at the core of earth, let it run up your grounding cord all the way up into your body and into your heart. Feel that earth energy there. Run another cord from the top of your head all the way up to the great central sun. And feel the starlight pouring down through the cord into your heart, and showering down all around you. Now notice the directions around you, above and below, in front of you, behind you, to your right and to your left. Notice a beautiful iridescent bubble forming all around our group. This bubble only lets in the highest energies of love and above. Only beings that resonate with the higher energies. And now think of who you'd like to call in. You can say it out loud if you want, or say it to yourself. Any beings, including your higher self and your spirit guides, that you'd like to call into our circle. I'd like to call in Nimue, Arthur, and Guinevere. Merlin, all the fairy sisters of Avalon, priestesses and healers, the knights of the round table, and the Fisher King. And Parsival. And I'd like to invite in each of our animal guides or allies to travel with us today. And we've got quite a few beings with us in our bubble, all ready to support us on our adventure. And I'd also like to call in the Holy Grail, or the Grail. The word holy was added in the later versions. Feel its energy filling this bubble. And now you find yourself standing on a hilltop, a beautiful grassy hilltop overlooking a forest. And you call in your animal guide and any other companions you'd like to travel with. When you look around, you'll notice that there's a path leading into the forest. You start walking toward this path. And as you walk through the woods, you notice beautiful ancient old trees towering above you with huge trunks. You may notice faces on their trunks. Friendly faces. Sometimes they may seem aloof. They seem to be watching you as you walk down this forest path. And you feel a warm breeze on your skin. You hear the sounds of birds and squirrels high in the branches above. You see beautiful glowing light in the distance. You begin walking toward it. Sometimes it disappears behind the bushes. Sometimes it reappears, shining through the trees. And as you get closer, you notice that it's a glowing white doe. Beautiful deer. She's leading you through the forest. Deeper and deeper. And then you begin to come out through the other side, and the trees are more sparse. And as you come out the other side, you see a wide valley before you. And you notice that the trees are burned and dead. The rivers and streams have dried up. The grass is dry and brown. Everything looks desolate. Your animal guide leads you into this desolate valley, and you follow. In the distance, you see a huge castle that looks very ancient and dilapidated. And you wonder why your animal guide is leading you to this castle that looks abandoned. You continue walking closer and closer. Soon you notice that there's light shining from the windows. It's a beautiful light that seems otherworldly. You walk closer and closer until you see the doors of the castle. You walk up to them. And you feel something calling you from inside. So you open the doors. You step inside. And once you're inside the castle, it's warm and it's light. And it's richly decorated. You notice that there's people gathered all around in this beautiful banquet hall. On one end of it, there's a throne and a king sitting in the throne. But he looks like he's in great pain. And you realize that this is the Fisher King. The king who has a terrible wound. And his wound has caused the desolation of his whole kingdom. And as you're watching, a procession of beautiful fairy maidens comes forward. And you notice that one of them is carrying a shining object that you recognize as the Holy Grail. When you see it, you feel like everything you've ever wanted is provided. And the maiden carrying the Grail approaches the king. For a moment, his pain vanishes. And his vigor is restored, enough to keep him alive for another day. And behind the Grail, there's a page carrying a long spear that drips blood. And you wonder, what is the meaning of this? And the Grail Maiden carries the Grail all around the hall. And as she approaches each person, they receive whatever they need in that moment. And you watch her moving closer and closer to you, seeing each person with a beautiful smile on their face, feeling totally fulfilled. And as she approaches you, you suddenly have a feeling that everything you've ever wanted is here for you right in this moment. All the nourishment, all the fulfillment, all the dreams you've ever had coming true. You realize you've always had this, but sometimes you forget. And as you tap into the energy of the Grail, you connect with that part of yourself that always lives in abundance, always lives in grace, always lives in a state of perfect fulfillment. You bring that into your awareness and anchor it into your subconscious mind and your conscious mind so that you'll remember it in the future. And now the Grail Maiden moves on until everyone in the hall has received the blessing of the Grail. And she lays the Grail on a table. And suddenly a lavish feast appears. And everyone in the hall joins in to share the feast. And at this time, you remember the story of Percival and how he came to this very castle. But his mother had told him not to ask questions, so he held his tongue. And when he awoke in the morning, it was banished because he had forgotten to ask the questions. So now just think, having seen all this, what questions do you have to ask? You can ask questions of the Fisher King, of the Grail Maiden, of any of the fairy maidens in the procession, the page that holds the lance or spear. Take a couple minutes to ask the questions that come to mind for you. Now, thank the Grail King for his hospitality. Thank the Grail maidens and all the people present. Bid farewell. Return back out the castle doors. And as you walk out, you notice that there are some green blades of grass pushing up through the dead grass. And some of the trees are beginning to grow new leaves and blossoms. There's a little bit of water trickling in the riverbeds. Something has shifted because you asked the questions that you asked. You walk back through this valley, and as you get closer to the forest, you see more and more signs of life. The birds are returning, the deer and the rabbits. And as you enter the forest, you feel like things have changed in a very positive way. You walk quickly back through the forest till you find yourself back on the hill where you started. Now become aware of your body and your normal waking consciousness. Come back and join us. Be able to move and stretch and have a drink of water or something to get grounded back in your physical reality. Yeah, come back and join us. You back with us, Caroline?
I am. I just have to change this fan. It's too blowing too much cold air. Hang on.
Hey, so does anybody want to share their experience?
That was a very healing journey that we took. Very amazing. I asked the chalice maiden what the chalice was made of, and it was like a bowl, and she said it's made of fairy dust and stardust.
Wow. Oh, that gives me chills.
And I forgot to ask what the blood on the spear was. I didn't ask about that, but that did kind of make me wonder.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a strange little detail in the story. Anybody else?
But what I loved is that when the fairy maid handed the, the the grail to me or extended it to me, I kind of melded with the energies of the grail, and then I felt like I was becoming that chalice, only a big version of it. And then I saw all this beautiful gold dust flowing down into that openness, the bowl of chalice. And I thought at first it just meant, maybe financial abundance or whatever. And she said, no, it's your healing. And that can be partly financial abundance as well. But then I began to understand it had to do with unconditional love, which I never felt growing up, and that sort of a thing. It was really beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. The blood on the spear, what I got from that is they were saying it's all the regrets, it's the heaviness we carry, it's what people call sin. and which is a horrible term, and people don't, I don't think, use it correctly. To me, sin is when you step away from the pure love of divine presences. It's not, oh, you did a bad thing, you did something wrong. So, but we put ourselves down that way. So that's what I thought that the blood was. Yeah. But it was a beautiful journey, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Any interesting experiences or anything you want to share?
Prior to when you were talking about like what did we feel like the Grail was, of course I've heard the legend. I'm not as learned as all of you in those texts, but I've heard the legends and things as well, and I hadn't really considered it. But I kept really feeling like it was like a mirror, you know, and if you like look into a well or the lake or a cup, right, you're kind of being mirrored back whatever you're feeling, or perhaps even something more true, right? So for me, that's how I felt about the cup. And when it was presented to me, I could feel like a resistance that I didn't want to drink. Um, and not necessarily because it wouldn't be great, but because of my own, wounds and things like that. And when you said we could ask anybody any questions, what appeared to me was like a monstrous person.
Hmm.
And I felt like that was all of the, embodiment of like my own wounds and things. And so really, I felt like before I could drink from it, this monstrous version of me needed to drink from it. So that was like my process of like asking questions. So yeah, thank you.
About you, Marilyn, did you have anything you want to add?
Yes, for me, well, first it was hard to come back. I still feel like my head is a little bit there. So, but overall, it was great. Like, what's interesting is that the Grail looked like a dining ware, silver with a lid. So it was very simple with branches underneath, like cedar. Um, and when the lid was open in front, when it was open and presented to me, I felt a very warm gold energy that just came into me. It was like um, sun energy. That's um, it was more than a healing energy. It was powerful energy. I don't know how to describe it, but and when it was time to ask a question, I didn't feel like I was allowed to ask a question, and I was told I have everything I need.
Hmm.
So, and even I was wondering if I can use that um, gold energy maybe when I do healing work. I don't know. I'll have to maybe try that or test that. But yeah, I really enjoyed being present in the castle with all these people.
Yeah.
Thank you for the journey.
Yeah, for me, I asked the Fisher King about how he could be healed because every day he's healed partially by the Grail, but he never can be totally healed in the story until Parsival asks the question. And unfortunately, the author of Percival died before he finished the story. So other people had completed it in different versions. But I think it's kind of apropos in a way that we are left with this question. Well, what is the question he needed to ask in order to heal the king and the kingdom? But the question I asked was, what would it take to heal the king and the kingdom? And I saw that it's kind of a symbol of our world, the whole kingdom, and the way that humans have been kind of destroying so much of our world and creating this desolation in places, not everywhere, but in certain places where humans have exploited the land. It's kind of a reflection of the wound of the Fisher King. And he said that the way the Grail is the healing of that, it's that connection with the oneness that we experience when we experience the Grail. That's what heals it. And his consciousness is still tied to the old way of thinking and feeling, and the way of exploiting the earth rather than treating it as part of ourselves and supporting it. So he can never be healed until his whole consciousness shifts in a way into the Grail consciousness. So I just thought that was interesting. His wound is, it's not such a physical wound, it's his consciousness. It's the old way of thinking about reality, that we are separate from the oneness.
Bernadette, does the legend have him being wounded in battle?
I
mean,
think it was in a battle that he was wounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they call him the Fisher King because when Percival's first season, he's in a boat fishing,
Yeah.
but he has to be carried around. I don't think he can walk by himself.
You can't worry.
Right. So anyway, ready for another journey?
Mhm.
All right, so this time we're gonna go visit Arthur and Guinevere. Arthur was almost had an obsession with the Grail. Like once he realized what it was, he sent his knights out searching for the Grail and kind of neglecting a lot of other duties around the kingdom. Because I think he knew that if they found the Grail, then everything else would take care of itself. So let's all get comfortable again. Notice your breath moving in and out naturally. Notice the direction in front of you, behind you, to your right and to your left, above and below, and center within you. Your grounding cord connected to the core of Earth, to the great central sun. Feeling those energies meld in your heart. Kind of like a giant lemniscate that crosses in your heart. Now you find yourself kind of standing right at the border of the fairy realm. Kind of feels like the world that you normally live in. You may be walking down the street you live on. You notice that there's something right there. You can almost reach through a veil and touch it. As you walk down your street, the veil gets thinner and thinner. So you find yourself in a similar world, but something a little different. There's something lighter about it. There's something more joyful about it. There's something more ethereal. And you realize that you've crossed over the very thin veil between the human world and the fairy realm. And now there's many places you could go in this realm. But today we're going to go to the kingdom of Camelot. You call your animal guide to accompany you. You start walking. And you find that the land becomes more and more rural. So there's only fields and forests and mountains and valleys. Pure nature wherever you look. And it's nature much like it was in the realm that you left. But everything here is more vibrant. Every plant is at the peak of health. Every animal is full of vitality. The streams run pure. The air is fresh and clean. You take a deep breath of this fresh, clean air. And you feel the air elementals rejoicing all around you. And you continue walking through this land, and you notice a beautiful castle not far away. It has flags flying and turrets that look as if they're made out of marble or alabaster. And you hear beautiful music, joyful dance music coming from the castle. And you see that all around it, there's a fair happening. Vendors have booths full of food and cloth and items that they've made out of wood and metal. There's a whole bazaar full of wonderful things. And the people are milling through, looking at the items that are for sale, chatting with each other. If you notice anything that looks particularly interesting or enticing, just let yourself know that you can have that too. Everything here is available to you. Because this is the kingdom of Camelot, where abundance is shared with all. The harmony reigns through the land. And all around the castle, there are fertile fields and orchards, growing lots of fresh fruits and vegetables and grains. And in the kitchens of Camelot, bakers are baking breads and cakes, and cooks are preparing delicious meals. And you go in through the castle gates into the inner courtyard. And you see that Guinevere and her ladies' maids are playing a game of something that looks like croquet. And King Arthur and some of the knights are playing a board game on a table over to the side. And it seems like it's a day of leisure for everyone. And suddenly, a beautiful maiden appears. She's not an ordinary woman. She's glowing with light. She's carrying the Grail. Everyone looks up from what they're doing, feels drawn to this amazing sight. And the Grail radiates light that touches everyone who sees it. They feel uplifted and joyful. But the Grail Maiden doesn't stop. She walks right through the courtyard into the hall where the round table is sitting. She sets it in the center of the round table, and she invites all the knights of the round table, all the ladies and all the fairy women. And of course, Arthur and Guinevere to come and sit at the table and partake in the blessings of the Grail. You notice that Merlin is standing to the side watching with a smile on his face. And after a few minutes, the Grail Maiden picks up the Grail and wordlessly walks back out of the hall, back through the courtyard, back through the fair, and off into the woods somewhere where no one can see her anymore. And all the knights and the ladies and the royalty around the round table start talking to each other, asking, what was that? Where did it go? How can we find it? And Arthur has recognized that it's a key to peace and harmony, not only for his kingdom, but for the entire world. It's a gift of the fairy realm that has been offered to humanity. And he pledges to find it and bring it to the world. And he asks who would like to go on this quest. And many volunteers stand up, ready to pursue the Grail Quest. And you feel called to go on this quest as well. Because you know that even though you've seen the Grail and felt its blessings, you may lose track of it again, and you want to find a way to tap into it, hold on to that energy in your life. So you set off on the quest. And since your heart is pure and your intentions are good, it doesn't take long to find the Grail. The Grail Maiden is waiting for you, just on the other side of the woods. So take a few minutes to have a conversation with her about what the Grail means to you and how you can include it in your life on a daily basis. Now take a moment to thank the Grail Maiden, bid her farewell. And you return back into the world of humans. And you find yourself walking down your street back to your house, back into your body, fully present in the physical world, ready to join us again and share what you've learned along the way. Everybody back? Marilyn?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay.
You didn't lose me.
Okay. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share about that?
For me, sometimes I question if the messages or what's going on in these journeys are what are really meant to happen, or is it like just my imagination, or
Yes, both.
mhm.
I said yes, both.
Yeah, but the grail, just wondering if it's accurate, but the grail was just pushed into me. So it's I don't know the reason why. I know it feels good, and I know I need healing. So, and maybe it was pushed into me so that I can incarnate it our world. Um, so yeah, and it takes a different shape every time.
Mhm.
So this time it was more like how can I describe it? Like a long stick with a cup, but it was a white light
Hmm.
cup, and the stick was green.
Hmm.
And I don't know, green means healing too. So I don't know. I'll just
Yeah.
be grateful for the experience.
Okay.
Beautiful.
You want to say something, Nancy?
Um, yeah, so so I asked the maiden what the Grail was all about, and she said it projects peace, harmony, joy, and healing into the world, into the
Mm.
whole world, and into each individual that experiences it. And then Merlin showed up, and he said, "This is what the, your world needs at this time."
Mm.
Is that energy of the Grail
Yeah.
all over the world, because we're messing it up badly.
Yeah, that's the feeling I got about it.
Yeah.
I know, I'm sorry, Nancy, were you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. I know that in the first journey, Bernadette, you were saying that like as the maiden was taking the Grail around, the Grail was kind of speaking to each person and giving them what they needed. But this time, I really felt that in the sense that it was communicating to us energetically. It was speaking to us in some energy that our spirit would understand, even though our conscious mind didn't, as you were saying, the first journey. And that I thought was really wonderful. And then when I went, followed her out to where she had taken the Grail into the woods, she was encouraging me to claim my power, you know, and from the Grail. And she said, you can create, claim that. It was very beautiful.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been doing these journeys with the dragon guide that you introduced us to months ago.
Oh,
In one of your programs. Yeah, it's very cool.
yeah.
She always
Yeah.
comes.
A good companion to have.
Yeah, really lovely. And also a big wolf, a huge wolf, because I love wolves, and so he's present as well.
My animal is a wolf also.
Oh, wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful,
for these journeys, like I feel safe with a wolf. So
Yeah.
I would
wonderful.
love to have a dragon as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could draw on a dragon guide, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a wolf. One of my first guides that I met was a wolf that mostly acts as a protector. Doesn't usually go on journeys with me, but it's always around.
Oh, wonderful. I
And a
love that.
dragon guide also.
Yeah, I love that.
How about
Yeah,
you?
I brought my dragon with me too,
Yeah.
as well as my power animals.
You want to share something, Haley?
My guides have been my dogs.
Mm.
One passed away 4 years ago, and then the other one is with me. Their names are Luna and Willa.
Mm.
They're both gray pit bulls. And so that's been very interesting because they never got to meet this earthly realm. But I feel like, for me, in the last one and this one, for them to be my guides, it's a lot about my inner healing and work. And so a lot was about having to like fill my own cup and receive and these types of things because I can feel like a resistance. And of course I have that, you know, and I'm aware of that, but I can feel it in the journeys as well. And you know, so part of it was that you know, I wasn't I didn't have to drink, you know, instead it was almost like a um bath sounds weird, but you know, kind of just like a patting of the liquid onto my skin. And that way it's easier for me to receive other than just like completely directly like via mouth. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, that just reminds me of how you can use flower remedies that way too. You can
Mm-hmm.
on your skin.
Yeah, that's actually how I do it with my dog. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good point.
Yeah. So when I asked what the Grail was all about, she said it's the essence of creativity, but it's kind of a different energy than the creativity of the like the hollows of the sword and the spear are all about, you know, dividing and one pointed action, but the creativity of the Grail is about letting go and allowing. It's the energy of allowing, that feminine energy of creating by simply accepting what we want into our lives, which, ooh, that gives me chills again. Yeah, so that I really liked that description of it. And that's why it's always protected by the Grail maidens. It's not like you never find a man presenting the Grail. It's always this feminine energy.
I love that backdrop behind you, the screen you have behind you. That's so perfect. Brenda.
It is.
Yeah, that's from the Lord of the Rings, the elves leaving Middle Earth.
Oh,
You can see it.
I love that.
Yeah, I love the images and the colors and everything about it. I have it
Light.
on my Facebook page too.
There's light emanating from the elves. I think he describes them that way in the book. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's plural. Yeah,
which are basically fairies.
yeah,
In
yeah.
other words, actually, Tolkien was going to call them fairies, but at the time he was writing, that was a term used for gays, and he didn't want to confuse people, so yeah, called them elves.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah, they did used to call gay men fairies. Yeah, I
right.
remember in the
Yeah.
60s. Yeah. Mhm.
Mm.
Wow.
So, does anybody have any questions or observations about the whole Grail lore and how it all fits into the legends?
Wondering how does Merlin figure in, or doesn't he?
Well, my experience of Merlin is that he's on this mission, at least this is what he's told me, to reconnect the human realm with the fairy realm in our human consciousness with fairy consciousness, because as our races split apart, we both lost something. And in order to kind of be whole, we have to reunite. And so that's what his work is and why he orchestrated Arthur's birth and why he, was kind of playing behind the scenes with the ladies of Avalon and working to, bring that consciousness of the fairy realm back to the humans, especially to the knights who are like the most masculine energy, because the fairy energy is a lot more feminine. And so the knights needed to be awakened and initiated into this different energy that was kind of foreign to them because they kind of gone to the extreme masculine pole. And so Merlin and Nimue are kind of this team working, it says Nemo on the closed captions. That's funny. Nimoy. Has a very maiden. She's also one of the ladies of the lake. And together they've been working for hundreds of years and maybe longer, but at least since the Arthurian legends were written down, to kind of bring this consciousness of the fairy realm back to the humanity. Which is, that's my one beef with the Christian overlay, is that it kind of pulls more and more of the fairy stuff out of it and tries to replace it with the Christian story, which, you know, I'm fine with the Christian story, but you can't leave the fairies out. But,
Yeah.
so, I don't know, do you have a sense of who Merlin is?
Right.
I said, do you have a sense of who Merlin is from your experience?
I mean, I feel like he connects to aspects of the magical realms, which is what we call, for people who are, you know, somewhat like the fairies, somewhat physical, and yet connected to higher vibrational reality, so that they can work with light, they can create in ways that are an obvious shortcut compared to those of us who are denser and lower vibrational and have to actually get up and do things physically in order to create something. So I feel he's kind of a link between those worlds. And he has been painted as a sort of in some ways, an egotistical and not necessarily a dark sorcerer, but not anyone you'd want to trust. Whereas I think in reality, he's really a teacher, and he's very advanced in his consciousness. So I kind of look at it that way, and also that he's in such beautiful, such perfect symbiosis with the fairy realm that he doesn't see any separation between him and them, and that builds a bridge, another bridge between us and the fae. Yeah, that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, and he was actually half fairy. I mean, they say his father was a demon, but that's what they called fairies.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy that.
He's got the fairy blood.
Yeah. Is there any one particular author or authors that you go to for info on this legend?
Well, I've read a lot of what Caitlin and John Matthews written about them, because they've really delved into it, and it's heavy reading. You know, they really put in all kinds of research and stuff that sometimes it's like they're jumping from one thing to another and like, what are they talking about? But they have a lot of really good information. And I really like Wendy Berg's books. Or she wrote one about Guinevere and one about called the Guinevere one, I think it's just called Guinevere. But
How do you spell her last name, Bernadette?
Berg. She wrote a book called Red Tree, White Tree about how the fairy and human races were started out together and split off, and how we need to come back together, which totally resonates with my understanding. And also Gareth Knight wrote some really good stuff, like The Fairy Gates of Avalon is a really interesting book, connects all that stuff. So
Okay, great.
yeah, those are probably my favorite ones.
In the midst of Avalon, Merlin was the only male that was allowed on the island where the goddesses resided.
Yeah, that book, I mean, it was really fun. I really enjoyed reading it, but it doesn't really it kind of makes the priestesses kind of like humans instead of fairy priestesses, and it also doesn't align with a lot of the ancient lore, but it was fun.
Yeah, and then there was a prequel and a sequel too.
Right, yeah.
I read all of them.
Yeah, but Lancelot was someone who was added kind of in some of the later versions, but he was supposedly raised in Avalon by the Lady of the Lake.
I'm sorry, who's this now?
Lancelot, Sir Lancelot. Yeah,
And he was supposedly raised by the fairies?
he was raised in Avalon by the Lady of the Lake,
Oh, okay.
legends say.
Hmm. Wow.
And yeah, I don't know if, can't remember if other of the knights went to Avalon. I mean, Arthur was brought there after he was mortally wounded and healed by Morgan Le Fay. So he's supposed to come back. They call him the once and future king. He's waiting in Avalon for the time when he's needed. So, would you like to do one other short journey before we go? Or is everybody journeyed out?
One more might be nice.
All right, let's do sort of a shorter one this time.
I'm just taking notes here and I'm just saving this. Yeah, wonderful. Okie doke.
Okay, so just get relaxed. Be aware of your breath, moving in and out. Letting go of all the tension in your body. Now you find yourself on the shore of a huge lake. And in the distance, you can see the misty Isle of Avalon. Feel drawn to go there. So you take your animal ally and you go walking along the shore until you come to a rowboat with a ferryman in it. And he invites you to come aboard. So you take a seat in the boat and he pushes off and starts rowing across the lake. Feel yourself rocking gently from side to side. Hear the splashing of the oars in the water. Sound of seabirds flying overhead. Feel the warm sunshine on your face. And a gentle breeze. And as you row closer and closer to Avalon, the air gets cooler. You begin to feel little touches of mist on your face. And the mist gathers around you until it's so dense that you can't see anything in front of you. But you still feel the rocking of the boat and hear the splashing of the oars. And suddenly the mist begins to clear and you see the sunshine pouring through. You feel the bottom of the boat scraping on the sand at the shore. The ferryman jumps out and pulls the boat up onto the shore. He holds out a hand to help you out. As you step onto the land, you feel at home. You look around and notice that there's a path leading through a beautiful orchard of apples. And on the apple trees, there are both blossoms and ripe fruit. And there are birds singing in the trees. You find yourself dancing down the path between the apple trees. And as you come to the end of the path on the other side of the orchard, you meet a tall, beautiful fairy woman who welcomes you to Avalon. You tell her about your quest for the Grail, how you'd like to know more about it. He takes you to a beautiful temple. As you walk into this temple, you see that it's divided into 4 quarters. One in the east, one in the south, one in the west, one in the north. And in the center, there's this beautiful temple, a beautiful fountain of light. And you see the fairy women bathing in that light, coming out refreshed and reinvigorated. And you wonder what's in each of these quarters, because each one of them is hidden behind a veil. The fairy woman leads you to the veil in the west. She pulls back the veil. You find yourself in a large room with a huge window overlooking the ocean. And in the center of the room is the Grail. And around it, the Grail maidens keep watch. And it sustains them and feeds them. You just take some time to take a seat with the Grail maidens. Just enjoy the energy of the Grail. Feel the bounty that it offers you. You hear almost like a whisper coming from it. Everything you want is yours. You can do or be or have anything. It's all here waiting for you to claim it, to accept it, to allow it. All you have to do is let go and let it in. And as you allow yourself to let go, you feel a strength growing inside of you, a power that you never knew you had, a confidence in knowing that your intuition will lead you where you need to go. You can always trust it to give you the answers you need. And you feel healing in your body. Like a golden light shining, filling every part of you with the energy of love and healing. You feel it surrounding you with showers of abundance of everything you would ever want, everything you could ever need. It's already there. You just need to trust it, let it in. You feel bathed in the beautiful light of the Grail, not only around you, but inside of you. And shining out shining out from your core all around you into your energy field. Every layer of your being, your astral body, your etheric body, your physical body, all shining with the light of the Grail. And when you've absorbed as much of this light as you can for the moment, you step back. Thank the Grail Maidens for welcoming you. And you remember that you can always come back here anytime you need to reconnect with that Grail energy. See that the priestess who brought you to this temple is waiting to lead you back out. She takes your hand and leads you to the door of the temple and bids you farewell. You thank her and walk back through the apple orchard to find the ferryman waiting for you on the other side. He helps you climb into the boat and rows you back across the lake. And when you land on the other shore, you feel like you've changed, like you carry more light, more power inside of you. And as you make your way back to your body, you carry that energy with you into your physical form, into every cell of your body. And as you begin to move and stretch, you feel that energy moving down to your fingers and toes, from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, shining out all around you. And when you're ready, come back and join our group. Ground yourself and get reoriented to your physical environment. Welcome back. Hey, does anybody want to share anything about their experience?
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I won't continue, but you know the song. It's my favorite song.
Oh, you have a beautiful voice, Nancy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, the
It was a
world is
great,
waiting.
it was a great journey. It was really, I could really feel all the light, coming in and out and all around. And yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful journey, Bernadette. Thank you.
The world is waiting for your light, so let it shine.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything to share?
Yeah, this time when I looked into the Grail, and it seems like it is full of liquid light, but I saw reflections in it before I drank from it. Which again, the maiden told me, to drink from it, but I saw reflections of actual blessings that I've been asking for, which I thought was really beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I told her I didn't feel worthy, to drink from it. Each time I'm kind of surprised if she says that, but I felt the support of my soul family. I felt a lot of support there. Yeah, very beautiful.
And you are worthy. She wouldn't ask you if you weren't. Anyone else?
For me, it brought me a feeling of peace and confidence. And the chalice this time looked like a big gold cup, and with smoke coming out of it, like, but I think it's a kind of cold or liquid smoke. I don't know exactly the term for that. And I was not in contact with it, but just the feeling of being in the room uh, was great. So, yeah, and I realized there's a difference in doing the live workshops and the recorded workshops, and it's better for me when I'm sitting down than laying down. So, no, it was great. All the three journeys were great. And by the way, after the second uh, journey, when the chalice was pushed into after the chalice was pushed into me, I started coughing. So that's why I turned my camera off. So as I mentioned yesterday, like, I'm recovering from COVID, and I haven't been coughing for since the beginning of the symptoms. Since the first symptoms appeared, it was just difficult breathing, but maybe the coughing is a sign of healing. I don't know. Hopefully.
Moving some energy. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. How about you, Haley? Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, so this time I could actually drink it directly. So it was like I had to build to that, moment. That was interesting. And Merlin was also there with me, but he over the last few months has kind of like presented himself as a energy or guide for me. So it becomes very like fatherly. And but a bit, cheeky,
Yeah.
energy. So that was not a surprise, but also very like comforting. So
Yeah, he does have a sense of humor. I really like his energy. Okay, well, I think that about wraps it up for today. Hope everybody feels like they got a good sense of the Grail and can carry that forward in their lives. Your lives. Our
Absolutely.
world needs it.
Mhm.
What do you say, Caroline?
Thank you so much, Bernadette.
You're very welcome.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you all for being here. Like Marilyn was saying, there is an energy in the group different from the recording.
Yeah.
Your presence is holding that space. All right. Well, until we meet again, thanks for being here.
Bye, Caroline. It was nice seeing you today
Oh,
again.
good seeing you, Marilyn.
And bye, everyone. I just like everyone's energy. So
nice meeting you all. Thank you for allowing me to be part of the space.
Meeting you, Haley.
You too.
Wonderful group.